Hello everyone. In this video, we'll learn an important concept called sequences. What is a sequence? A sequence is a collection of ordered values in such a way that each of those values have a specific numbering or position associated with them. In CS220, we'll be covering three types of sequences, which are strings, lists, and tuples. In today's lecture, we'll learn about the string sequence. In the next lecture, we'll learn about the list sequence. There are four basic operations that you can do with any kind of sequence. Those are length, indexing, slicing, and for loop. A string is nothing but a sequence of one character strings. Let's consider the example string of hello world /n, which is initialized into the variable s. Each of those characters have a specific position associated with them as highlighted by the green position number below the characters. Recall that positions always begin with 0 in Python. We already know what the len function enables us to do. For a particular string sequence, the len function is going to get us the number of characters within that string sequence. We can call the len function by passing the variable s here as an argument. To generalize what len function does, it's going to count the number of values within any kind of sequence. The len function always returns one position number greater than the possible position numbers within that particular sequence. That's because position numbers begin at 0. What is indexing? Indexing enables us to access one value within the sequence of values. In case of string sequence, that would be a single character. What is slicing? Slicing enables us to extract a subsequence, which would be a set of values from the original sequence. Whenever you slice a sequence, you're going to get a subsequence of the same type of sequence. What does a for loop enable us to achieve? A for loop enables you to execute certain statements for each value of the sequence. Let's go through demo examples for len function and for indexing. I'm going to switch over to my Jupyter notebook session. Let me initialize a variable s with the string of a, b, c, d, e. Len function call here is going to return a value of 5 when we pass s as an argument. That's because we have 5 characters in this particular string, correct? How do you perform indexing? You'll have to use square brackets for that. So you'll have to type in the variable name, which is s, then open square bracket, close square bracket. Within those square brackets, you're going to mention a position number. The position number for the first character is going to be 0. So s of 0 is going to give you the character a. That's going to be how we read this particular statement over here. Instead of saying s open square bracket 0 close square bracket, we are going to say s of 0, and s of 1 is going to retrieve the character b, and s of 2 is going to retrieve the character c. Similarly, s of 4 is going to retrieve the character e. What's going to happen when we give the position as 5 here? That's going to make Python unhappy because there isn't a character in index position 5 for the variable s here. So you need to be careful not to use non-existing index positions when it comes to indexing in Python. What would happen if I were to use the position number as a negative value, say -1? You would think that that would give you an error, but the creators of Python decided to do something fancy with negative values for indexes. They decided to use the negative values for reverse indexing. So -1 is going to retrieve the character e here. Why not use -0? That's because -0 is nothing but 0. We already use 0 for index position for character A here. So the reverse indexing is going to begin at -1, which is going to be the last value always. So what would be S of -2? That's going to give you the character D. What would S of -5 give you? That wouldn't give you an error. It would give you the character A. Why is that the case? That's because negative indexing starts at -1 and you go all the way until the first character for this particular string sequence, which is going to be A character at index position -5 here. Let me switch back to the slide deck after showing you one final example. S of -6 is going to throw an index out of range error similar to S of 5. That's because there are no characters in the index position -6 for the variable S here. Let's switch over to the slide deck and we'll learn the concept of slicing. Slicing requires a similar syntax. Let's consider a string pizza and we want to create slices of pizza. Let me first lay out the index positions. You have the positive index positions of 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 on top of each of those characters. If you list the negative index positions, you're going to get -1 for the A here and -5 for the P here, and the remaining follow the negative index ordering. What if you want to get the character P out? You'll just say S of 0 or S of -5, correct? What about getting the character I out? You'll say S of 1 or S of -4. What if you wanted to get the character A here out? That's going to be S of -1 or S of 4. Instead, if we wanted to pull out multiple characters, say IZZ, what would be the syntax for that? For slicing also we'll be using the square brackets, but there'll be one slight change. You'll include a colon within the square brackets and we'll be mentioning two different values. The first value is going to be the start index position and the last value is going to be the end index position. The start index position is inclusive, meaning that the character at the index position 1 here is going to be part of your slice here. So character at index position 1 is I. So your slice is going to be IZZ. The position at the end is exclusive, meaning you stop right before you hit that particular index position. So your slice here is going to go from 1 to 3 and will not include the position of 4 here. You can always use the other two combinations which come out of the negative index values here. For the same slice, you can say that you want to extract the slices S1:4 or any of the other combinations that are listed below here. I would strongly encourage you to just use the forward indexes for slicing, but you just need to be aware of the fact that reverse indexes or the negative indexes also can be used for slicing. When it comes to negative indexes, you need to make sure that the lower value of the negative index comes before the higher value. So you can't say S of -1:-4. That does not make any sense. You'll have to say S of -4:-1, which will go from IZZ, and since the end is exclusive, you'll skip the character A here. Let's talk about non-existing positions when it comes to slicing. Python is more flexible when it comes to slicing with respect to non-existing positions. For instance, you can say, give me a slice from 1:100. Python is not going to complain here because it will see that there are characters up until index position 4 and it will just return those characters, and the remaining part is simply going to be ignored by Python. Similarly, S of 50:100 is going to give you an empty slice of the original string sequence here. Do we have to always mention the start and the end as part of a slice? The answer is no. You can optionally skip one of those, provided that you want the slice to begin at either the beginning of your sequence or end at the end of your sequence. Let's say that you want to extract pi here. Instead of mentioning your slice is 0 colon 2, you can just say your slice is s of colon 2, and Python will automatically assume that you want all the characters from the beginning of the string sequence up until the previous index position of the exclusive end here, which is going to be index position 1. Similarly, you can say give me all the characters from index position 2 up until the last character here. Let me give you an intuition about as to why we have an inclusive start and an exclusive end. Let's say that you want to split your string into two separate slices and you want to add a new substring in between those two parts. Since the start is inclusive and the end is exclusive, you can manage to create both of those slice parts using the same index position. So when you say s of colon 3, that's going to get you all the characters until index position 2, and then you can add in these dots here. And when you say s of 3 colon, that's going to get you all the characters from index position 3 up until the last possible character, which is the index position 4 here. It's going to come in handy if you want to make such manipulations with your sequence. Let's learn about for loops. In order to understand for loops, we are going to first cover a motivation example with a while loop. Let's say that we have a variable message initialized to the string hello. If we want to iterate over every character within this particular variable message, we'll have to initialize the loop condition variable to the index position 0, correct? The key here is that you want your while loop iterations to have the same values as the index position for the characters within the string sequence. So when you initialize I to 0, and if you increment I by a value of 1 for every iteration, you're going to go through every character as part of every iteration. When do you have to stop the while loop iteration? When you've reached the length of your message, correct? Your while loop here is going to run from 0 up until length of message minus 1, which is exactly what you want. That's because the length function returns one position greater than the number of possible positions for a given sequence. So you need to make sure that your condition here says I less than len of message. Otherwise, you'll have to say I less than or equal to len of message minus 1. So what do we do in the loop body here? We are going to extract every character. How can we do that? We can simply use indexing. So I'm going to say message of I, where I use square brackets around I here. I is going to be the possession of each of those characters. What do we want to do with that particular character? We want to be able to display it to the screen. So we are going to call the print function by saving that particular character into a variable called letter here. So code like this is so common on sequences that there is an easier way to do this in Python, and the easier way is by using for loop. Let's understand the syntax for loop. Instead of using this lengthy loop body, we are now going to have a very precise loop where you're going to have the for loop syntax as for variable name in another variable name colon, and then you're going to simply use the first variable name, which is going to extract each of those characters. Instead of using indexing explicitly like we did in the while loop, the for loop is going to do that automatically for us, and every character within the variable MSG is going to get assigned into the variable letter. So far we have covered two different types of creating variables, correct? The first one is when you initialize a variable with a specific value, and the second one is when you call a function, you'll be creating a parameter variable when you pass arguments to it. This is the third way of creating a variable. We are going to create a brand new variable called letter while we execute the iteration for this particular for loop over here. Observe that we now can directly use the letter variable to call the print function call, and you get such a concise loop body for the for loop here. So focusing on the keywords, you have two keywords in for loop, that would be for and in, and then of course you have the final colon. Then you'll have the block of code which is going to be tab indented beneath the for loop line over here. You're going to have the variable name in between for and in as the brand new variable that you're trying to create, which is going to contain every value within your sequence. Where do you mention the sequence? That's going to be after the n keyword, which is in the variable MSG over here. So uh, automatically when a for loop iteration goes through, it's going to take every character from the string sequence and assign it into the variable letter over here. I'll wrap up this video here. In the next video, we'll go through demo for loops.